with Chris from last season. Now, if you remember, there was that scene where Melody asked Chris, "Are you the one who told Martell to get an NDA with these women?" And his response was, "No, I didn't tell him that." But then we overhear him saying, maybe it was Mauro or Maurice. Immediately, that raised eyebrows because honestly, the way he handled it just didn't make sense. Then you had Fletcher watching the scene, and she was furious. She couldn't believe Chris would say something so careless, because when you sit with someone like Melody, you know she words things in a way that could trap you if you're not careful. Fletcher didn't hold back at all, and she let Chris have it, pointing out that he should have been better prepared. And if you were watching, you probably noticed that the audience didn't really believe Chris either. It was one of those moments where you just sit back and think, wow, this is messy. And the way she explained it was really interesting, because it's clear that when you deal with someone like Melody, you have to be careful how you respond. You don't want to get caught up in miscommunication, and clearly, Chris learned that lesson the hard way. Next up, we need to talk about Martell Holt, because there's been some major legal updates you all need to know about. Earlier last year, in 2024, Martell was convicted of domestic violence, harassing communications, and he pled guilty. He tried to appeal the case, but the appeal trial didn't actually happen because he and the assistant prosecutor worked out a plea deal. That deal was accepted on August 18, 2025, and he ended up pleading guilty to harassing communications only. The DV part of the charge was removed, and while we don't know exactly why, it could be due to legal strategy or other reasons behind the scenes. Martell also had to pay a $300 fine and $100 in court costs, so a total of $400. While this may sound minor, it's actually very significant because Melody has been waiting for this verdict before moving forward with a custody hearing. If he had still had the DV charge attached, it could have seriously impacted his ability to have custody. So, in a way, this plea deal was a small win for him, but it's still serious because he now has a harassing communications conviction on record. Now, let's go back to what's happening with Letitia Scott and Fletcher, because that drama is still sizzling. Fletcher made it very clear that when it comes to Chris and the way he handled the NDA conversation, she was not impressed at all. She explained that everybody knows you can't play games with Melody, and you have to be careful with your words. If you mess up, you could end up looking bad on camera, and clearly, Chris made a big misstep. Fletcher's reaction was intense, and honestly, a lot of fans agreed with her. It just goes to show that in reality TV, you have to be sharp and strategic, especially when interacting with people who are careful with their words. This whole situation has fans talking because it shows the layers of strategy and tension that go on behind the scenes, and it's exactly why you want to watch every scene to see how it all unfolds. Letitia Scott has also been drawing attention recently, and she's not holding back either. She's been calling things as she sees them and letting everyone know when she feels someone is out of line. Her reactions to the way Chris handled the NDA situation were very vocal, and fans appreciated that honesty. It adds another layer to the ongoing tension because the cast isn't just dealing with one-on-one confrontations, they're dealing with multiple people weighing in and giving their opinions. That dynamic makes everything more unpredictable and keeps the storyline fresh. Martell Holt's legal situation also continues to influence the drama on the show. Even though the DV part of his charge was removed, the harassing communications conviction still carries weight. Melody has been watching everything closely, and you can tell this outcome could affect their future interactions. Fans are curious to see how Martell will address this on camera and whether Melody will bring it up in a future episode. Legal matters spilling over into reality TV storylines always make things more intense, and this is a perfect example of that happening. The custody aspect of the story is another piece that makes this all so complicated. Melody has been waiting for the verdict in Martell's case because it directly impacts what she decides in the custody hearing. If Martell had still been convicted of the DV charge, it could have completely changed how the court viewed him as a parent. Now that the charge is reduced, it's still serious but doesn't carry the same heavy consequences. Fans are speculating how this might play out on the show, and the tension is definitely building as we wait for that next episode. Fletcher's commentary on all of this shows how connected the cast is when it comes to strategy. She made it very clear that no one should underestimate Melody. When you're dealing with someone who is calculated and strategic, every word you say is important. That's why Chris ended up in hot water. He wasn't prepared for the way Melody phrased her questions, and Fletcher made sure everyone understood why that was a problem. It's moments like these that make the show addictive because you can see the consequences of every choice the cast makes. Finally, the way the audience reacts to these situations is just as important as what happens on camera. Fans are constantly analyzing every interaction, picking up on small details, and forming theories about what's really going on. With Chris, Fletcher, Tiza, Melody, and Martell, there's so much to unpack that it feels like every episode adds another layer of complexity. Viewers are hooked because they know that even small slip-ups can have major consequences, and that makes the drama all the more compelling. You really have to watch closely to catch everything, and that's why it's so important to stay tuned for all the upcoming developments. Back to Martell Holt, it's clear that his legal situation is closely tied to his relationship with Melody and the upcoming custody hearing. The plea deal reducing the charge to harassing communications could play a big role in the next steps of their custody battle. In Alabama, the courts really frown upon parents having DV convictions, so by removing the DV part, it could prevent any major complications with custody. It's interesting to see how this legal strategy has played out and how it might affect the storyline on the show. Fans are definitely curious to see how Martell and Melody address this in upcoming episodes, and I know I'm not the only one waiting to hear their side. Fletcher's commentary about Chris and the NDA situation also highlights the tensions between the cast members. She didn't hold back, and she made it very clear that you cannot underestimate Melody. Her reaction shows that the cast members have to be very careful in how they communicate, especially when it comes to sensitive topics like NDAs and relationships. This drama is what keeps fans glued to their screens, and it's exactly why you want to watch the full episodes to see how these conversations play out in real time. Every word matters, and every reaction can spark new drama, which is part of what makes reality TV so compelling. Martell Holt's legal update also has broader implications because it affects his custody case and how he is perceived on the show. The plea deal shows a bit of strategy and negotiation behind the scenes, and it's interesting to see how these legal matters intersect with reality TV storylines. Melody has been waiting for this outcome, and it could influence her decisions regarding custody. It's a reminder that what happens in court can have ripple effects in the personal lives of these cast members, and that makes the drama even more real for viewers. So stick with me, because the fallout from this is just getting started. Fans are connecting dots, cast members are reacting behind the scenes, and the internet is piecing together the real story that's been hidden for years. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.